Welcome to the Angular Plus Show, where app developers of all kinds share their insights and experiences. Let's get started.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Angular Plus Show. My name is Lara. I'll be one of your hosts today. With me, I have Chow. Chow, how's it going?
Pretty good.
Nice.
Yep. Yeah. Enjoying the summer break with the boy now.
Oh, you're on summer break already?
He is. He's just preschool. So
Okay. Well, technically my kid is too, but my kid just graduated from high school. So yeah. So they are currently still sleeping upstairs.
High school.
That's
Wow.
what 18-year-olds do, apparently. We also have Q. Q, how's it going?
I am doing great. After the storms over the Midwest, I guess this will air way after that. But I mean, you got hit with a tornado, Chow. Actually, St. Louis got hit.
yeah, St. Louis got hit, but it's actually just like way closer to downtown, so like 45 minutes away from me.
Yeah.
But I got an errand like I think a couple of days ago that took me to the area that got hit,
Okay.
and traffic was like in standstill for like 3 hours.
Wow.
Oh, you probably get people that like drive through to look at it, and then there's people like literally just trying to live their lives and then trying to clean up.
Yeah.
Yeah, we actually
Yeah.
our new house that we bought was on a path of a tornado earlier in the year.
Oh no.
We're like, well, maybe that means it won't come
Yeah,
back,
lightning doesn't strike in the same place twice.
right? We're like, at least we know our trees are strong because they've been through it before.
Uh-huh.
So in this very special episode of the Angular Plus Show, I don't know why I said it that way, but it's a very special episode because we have with us Minko from the Angular team to talk about version 20. Minko, how's it going?
Hey everyone, pretty good.
Nice.
I'm here in Europe right now, so pretty rainy, but not too bad. No
Nice.
tornadoes around, luckily.
Yeah, does Bulgaria get tornadoes?
No, it's pretty mild overall. Yeah, we don't have harsh winters anymore either, which is, I guess, sad. But yeah, it's pretty good.
Nice. Yeah, I'm a little north of Tornado Alley, but Chow and Q is like you're just straight up Tornado Alley. So we definitely, I remember moving to the West Coast and having people in Los Angeles tell me how afraid of tornadoes they were, and I'm like, wait a minute, but I'm afraid of earthquakes. So I think you get used to whatever you're living right.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't think Bulgaria or does Europe even get tornadoes? Like I feel like I've never heard of a tornado hitting Europe.
I haven't either. Yeah, in San Francisco, where most of the year we're there, we have earthquakes occasionally, but you usually don't feel them. They're just mild.
Right.
Yeah. I know that they can get extreme weather events because I went to Utrecht this year, and the cathedral in Utrecht, the nave collapsed during what they think was a derecho type event. But that was like, a couple hundred years ago. And so I know that they can get extreme weather events, but I guess I don't know if they get them as badly as it's not like Oklahoma. Like Oklahoma feels like not the place to be in tornado.
I've experienced my worst earthquake here in Bulgaria, actually, like when I was in university many years ago now. In San Francisco, luckily so far I haven't experienced anything too bad, but
yeah, they can be scary for sure.
Yeah.
So on the flip side of that, not scary, and also to harken back to the graduation talk, Angular has released version 20. And probably I feel like the first thing we can talk about are all the graduations we had in this version. A lot of great tools have been released to stable. So do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So just to set a little context before that, as the three of you probably know, when we build new features, we usually go through around like 3 phases. We identify the features by collecting a lot of feedback from developers. After that, we ship them in experimental or developer preview, and we spend a lot of time iterating on the features depending on how big they are and what they are. And eventually we polish whatever we've built based on feedback, based on different experiments, and we graduate these APIs to stable. So in version 20, we spent a lot of time working on developer experience improvements and a lot of time polishing these APIs that we introduced over the past couple of years. This makes the release not scary. Like, I'm hopeful that we didn't have scary releases over the past few years, but this one is one of the least scary ones. Polishes a lot of APIs, and you should be free to use them now.
Nice. And I think a lot of the APIs, when things get released in developer preview, I know that people feel a little like experimental. I'm still like, I'm not going to use that in production code. Developer preview, kind of depending on what it is, I might be like, maybe I could totally use, like we used control flow way before, like in the version it was released in developer preview, but luckily the API didn't change that much. So it was pretty easy to do that. So which of our features have graduated in version 20?
So we have some reactivity APIs. Effect is now stable. We promoted stable together with linked signal and toSignal. And so these are on the reactivity side. But what I'm particularly excited about, well, I've been always a fan of performance server-side rendering. Incremental hydration now is stable as well, together with the route level render mode configuration. All of these APIs are production ready. Even though in developer preview, as you said, many developers use them and they're well implemented. The only caveat there is that we may change the public API surface without following semantic versioning in developer preview. Now, all these APIs that I mentioned are locked, and we'll be following semantic versioning very strictly.
Nice. I have to admit something slightly embarrassing. I didn't even realize toSignal wasn't stable release. So we've definitely been using that. Yeah, so were there any major changes to any of these APIs that our listeners need to be aware of as they move to stable release, or did they?
There are some minor changes like that. So yeah, well, not since version 19 that I'm aware of, except for router modes, route level render modes, where we slightly updated a couple of APIs. With Signal, we did some timing change, I believe, in version 19, but like everything since then has been pretty stable. We spent a lot of time on zoneless this time. Zoneless was experimental, and now in version 20, it is in developer preview. And we have plenty of new features there. Like, for example, global error handling, because zones were implicitly kind of catching all the errors that happen in your application, and you had good error reporting. But with zoneless, well, no longer having zones, so that was like a gap that we addressed in version 20. There is also some work we did around stability of server-side rendering, so we know when your application has been rendered and you can pass it to the client. These are some of the major things we graduated to, like either stable or developer preview. Yeah.
And it looks like you also spent some time, like especially around hydration, developing developer tools to help with developer experience. Because, I mean, so for the listener, if you're doing server-side rendering, you get back the HT, like it looks right, but it might not be hydrated. And so understanding if your page is actually hydrated becomes more important. And there were what were the other dev tools that were released in this release? I feel like there were more.
Yeah, so just to expand on this feature, now Angular DevTools, it has deferrable view support, and this includes client-only deferrable views, only like deferred block. So it will show you where somewhere in the component tree you have a deferrable view, and it will update whenever the content for this deferrable view loads.
Nice.
You'll be also able to preview like what is the trigger. And if you're using defer together with incremental hydration, you'll also see which part like of your component tree is hydrated at this point. And whenever the trigger for defer is kind of activated, I guess, and you hydrate the individual kind of parts within the individual like parts of the view within the default block, you'd see them as hydrated as well. So yeah, pretty convenient for debugging. And
yeah, very cool. All right. So, and yeah, you said, I feel like this really is a lot of developer experience improvements because there's been so many things that have gotten released, you know, like linked signal, you know, all of like incremental hydration, like there's been so much kind of coming at us. So it makes sense that we would have sort of the reckoning episode, if you will, where we're like, okay, now all these things are stable and now we're going to keep moving on. So, yeah. So, all right. So what else is there hiding for us here in version 20?
yeah, since we're talking about DevTools, let me share a little bit more about it.
Yeah.
We are currently working on a couple of features in DevTools that didn't land in version 20. One of them is preview of the reactivity graph. So you'll be able to, when you click on a component, you'll be able to see the reactivity graph within the context of this component, or like all the effects, all the computed, and all the signals within this component and how they're connected. So that's hopefully going to make it pretty convenient to understand the relationships between the different components and between the different kind of reactive properties within your app. You'll be also able to change this reactive state.
Yeah, that's really cool. I feel like the dependency graph is sort of an abstract concept, and so having a way to visualize that, I think, will be really helpful, especially to understand how everything is connected.
Yeah, that's one of the features that we're working on right now on reactivity sides. We mostly have it, just we need to have slightly better visuals right now. Everything just works, but
yeah,
polish it more. And the other feature that we have been working on is kind of more details in the. So currently we have router tree. You can preview the router tree in your app, but it is under a feature flag. You need to enable it in settings. So we are adding some details where you can explore the config for the individual routes.
So is router changing? Because I noticed that the website, the docs have been updated pretty substantially. Are they making changes to router?
Oh, we just wanted to update the guide. Yeah, that's a good point.
Okay.
I didn't talk much about the documentation, but that's one of the biggest changes I guess we shipped in terms of docs in version 20. Completely rewrote the router guide.
Yeah, that one's really nicely set up now.
Yeah, I'm excited. I have a course I need to update, so I've been waiting for version 20 to come out so that I'm using the correct version of the docs.
Next is the dependency injection guide. We've been working on rewriting it as well.
Nice. Yeah, there's I think when you have a framework as large as Angular that can do as much as it does, there's it's easy to put documentation off to the last, but it's so important to have it. And I know as the community, we definitely appreciate all the effort that goes into that. Also, you know, if we're using Copilot, like it's nice to have improved docs because then we're getting better responses out of our Copilot instance and stuff. So yeah, thank you for that.
The other thing that they updated too is the style guide. Some of this stuff in there has been updated, like preferring inject over constructors, like a said truth. So it's really cool. Organization for your project has changed a little bit. Because used to you'd have component, directive, and assets directories, and no longer have that anymore, and it's separated by features. There's a lot of cool, like if you haven't checked out the docs, or if you're hearing this for the first time and hadn't checked out the docs, I would totally go back, and there's a lot of things that are gotchas now.
Yeah, like what do you feel like is the most controversial suggestion in the Angular style guide at this point?
I think the most controversial was the optional prefixes, suffixes, that we introduced.
Okay.
I can give you a little kind of history. I'm like an archaeologist for the style guide.
Nice. I love it.
I can share a little history about the style guide, and I'd love to share about one more improvement we did on dev tooling. It's one that I'm the most excited about. With the style guide, like we had, I don't know if you remember, but we had like quite a few AngularJS style guides. I kicked off one back in 2013, Todd Moto created one, and John Papa created one. And They were mostly kind of overlapping, but also at the same time different. John did a great job expanding his style guide, making it very descriptive. With version, but also like applications were very different across the industry because people were following different style guides. Something that we did for version 2 of Angular was we gathered together. I guess back then I was not part of the team. Igor invited me, John, and Ward Bell, and we started discussing how we can create like one official Angular style guide so that we can have this unified way for creating Angular applications. And this happened, I would say, I was exactly in this co-working space, maybe like different building, but the same co-working space when I had these meetings. So brings back memories. That was about 10 years ago now.
Right.
And back then, nobody really knew how to write Angular apps because that was a new framework, pretty much.
Yes. Well, and like there's all the documentation about version 1, and it didn't work with version 2. Like it was completely different. So yeah, because that's when I started writing Angular, and I picked up version 1 because there wasn't enough documentation for me to successfully use version 2 because of where I was at in my career and the fact that I worked all by myself. So
yeah, they were like dark ages back then.
Yeah.
We ended up shipping the style guide, and the style guide was just like shooting in the dark, pretty much inspired by AngularJS, but like Angular was a different framework. And we didn't update the style guide for many years after that, for, as I mentioned, 10 years. So in version 20, luckily Jeremy wanted to help modernize the style guide, so we found someone who was willing to put the work, which is a good amount of work. And dealing with style guides, it's not an easy thing. Everyone likes to argue about style.
Absolutely. Like this is the #1 way to get people to like at you on social media. So
yeah, absolutely. So we did some simplifications. We made the suffixes optional because just when you open an Angular project and you see these large file names, it contributes to just the mental overhead, thinking about the framework being very complicated, and we don't want to be there. There are some trade-offs of this, of course. Like, I guess the main trade-offs is potentially not having the different icons in Visual Studio Code for directives, services, and pipes, but we kept them for people who want to have these different icons. Some people would argue also that Command P or like fuzzy search for files could be harder too, which is not necessarily the case. We need to be a little more intentional about naming our files, and Command P is still going to work pretty well. But the other thing that was kind of more controversial for me at first was we wanted to drop the host bindings and host listeners, decorators, not drop them as APIs, but just drop them from the style guide. And that was a kind of not a bad idea because we're slowly moving away from certain decorators. But at the same time, the alternative was to use the directive metadata and the host property there. And all the expressions that you're writing are just pure strings, no type checking, no ID support, nothing. So we spent a good amount of time in polishing the developer experience to enable better type checking, auto-completion, and syntax highlighting in host expressions within the component or directive metadata. So that's one of the developer experience improvements that the styles in the style changes in the style guide actually helped us ship.
Yeah, so like if you didn't quite catch that, now we get type checking in the host bindings, like in the declaration, like the decorator, not like in like component or directive or whatever. So it's a lot better experience, because I think that held back a lot of people from actually using that style because it lacked the type checking. So
yeah, that's about the style guide. Can I share about my favorite developer experience debugging improvements?
I guess.
Yeah, for sure. Go for it.
Please do.
So we worked closely with Chrome DevTools to ship a custom Angular-specific performance track in the performance timeline. And that's my favorite feature because, well, it integrates really well with Chrome DevTools, and you can see how long did you spend in the life cycle of your application. You can map it directly to JavaScript function calls by looking at the flame chart in Chrome DevTools. So it integrates really well with the tool.
I'm really excited to test that out because in ng-conf last year, so 2024, Stephen Cooper did a great talk about profiling your Angular application, and he demonstrated using the performance tab in Chrome DevTools, and I liked it then. And so having it be specifically for Angular, I think I'm excited to see how that really helps to unlock some of the issues, because there are some issues you can run into that you just don't even realize. I mean, there's so many mistakes you can make that you don't realize you've made them until you start looking at that tab and you're like, what is happening here? And so I would say to the listener, if you haven't watched Stephen's talk, definitely go check that out. It's on the ng-conf YouTube. And then I'm excited to see this. Will the Angular team release, I assume there's going to be videos sort of demonstrating how this works, or?
Yeah, there will be a blog post also by Chrome. It's pretty easy. You just run in the console ng.enable profiling.
Nice.
It's a function, and from there you can open Chrome DevTools, and in the performance tab, you're going to start seeing Angular specific data.
Would you have to be on 20 for that, or is that just as long as you're in Chrome and you're in Angular, you can check it out?
Yeah, you have to be in 20. We had to add some instrumentation in Angular, and if you're not on 20, you can still use Angular DevTools profiler. It's a really good start. I'll recommend you to just start debugging with profiling with Angular profiler. If there is something obvious, it is going to immediately tell you, and if there is something a little more subtle, you can switch to Chrome DevTools.
Nice. Yeah, because the Angular profiler does get you, it gives you quite a bit of information, but it doesn't quite drill in as much as the performance tab does. So
yeah.
Nice. Excellent. Yeah, I'm really excited to use that. I feel like these kind of tools are what take an application from being a good application to being a great application, because you can really start to fine tune some of that performance and really see where your application might be lagging. So excellent. All right. So we have better dev tooling. We have improvements to developer experience. We've got a lot of stuff graduating to stable release. We've got zoneless moving to dev preview. What about resource API?
Yeah, resource is staying experimental, but we added streaming to resource in case, let's say, you have like a WebSocket stream or whatever, and you're going to return a signal from resource and get the updates from the socket. That's pretty convenient. And also we added HTTP resource that you can start experimenting with today. It's pretty convenient. You can implement very interesting patterns with it.
Mm-hmm. And that's in developer preview, or I'm sorry, in experimental mode. So we should expect that there will be breaking changes before it graduates to stable release. And maybe not, but I feel like that's always my rule of thumb. Like if y'all say it's experimental, that means that it's not quite baked. So definitely be prepared to make changes if you implement that in your production code. So yeah, that's really exciting as well, because at that point, then I feel like that for developer experience, you could potentially just get by without having to understand observables at all.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So that's I think that's always been sort of for like old school Angular devs. I'm like, I feel like you get your Angular badge when you finally figure out the difference between like a merge map and a switch map, but like it is certainly one of the higher bars of entry to using Angular. So I think that's a really exciting improvement.
Good morning. You know that moment when your coffee hasn't kicked in yet, but your Slack is already blowing up with, "Hey, did you hear about that new framework that just dropped?" Yeah, me too. That's why I created the Weekly Devs Brew, the newsletter that catches you up on all the web dev chaos while you're still on your first cup. Oh look, another Angular feature was just released. And what's this? TypeScript's doing something again? Look, I'll sort through the pull requests and changelog drama so you don't have to. 5 minutes with my newsletter on Wednesday morning, and you'll be the most informed person in your stand-up. That's better. The Weekly Dev Brew, because your brain deserves a gentle onboarding to the week's tech madness. Sign up at weeklybrew.dev and get your dose of dev news with your morning caffeine. No hype, no clickbait, just the updates that actually matter. Your Wednesday morning self will thank you.
All right, so what else is there in version 20?
Yeah, there is more.
But wait, there's more.
Spent a lot of time writing this blog post, looking at the dates. I started it in April 23rd, April 23rd, and I finished it May 19th, so almost a month.
I feel like they're just like that ticket goes on the board like the day the 20 gets released. They're like, all right, Minko, start working on the blog post for 21.
Yeah, it has been fun to do that, because like overall that's kind of the only way being on the Angular team when you get to have to see everything that we've shipped, because otherwise you're usually focused on one particular piece that is going to be part of the release. So it was a good amount of writing. Luckily, Jim and I can help occasionally.
Yeah, definitely. I do have to say, and I want to say this to you directly because you do write so many of these posts, that they are so helpful. I'm teaching a workshop on updating Angular apps, and it is so hard to remember what version was that out in, and was it in developer? Like, when was that in developer preview? When did that graduate? And so having these sort of historical blog documents where it's like, here's what happened in this release, it's made it a lot easier. And I think it makes it easier for people too, who are trying to go through that update process to go from version to version to know what they can do now. Like if you get to version 14, here's what you get. If you get to version 15, here's what you get. And I think having those historical documents is really helpful.
Glad to hear. Yeah, there's also this great tool by, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just saying thank you.
I was going to say there's also this great tool by like an Angular contributor, like a community member, by Jeremy, who created a Angular.courses/can-I-use tool.
Yes. Yes, you posted that on Bluesky, and I sent it to my team immediately. So
yeah, I personally use it sometimes because I don't remember when we shipped any like a particular API, so I remember some of the highlights, but it's a very comprehensive. It's a great tool. Really, really love it.
Yeah, definitely. Because it is hard to remember. And it's easy to get really excited about stuff. You know, like everyone was super excited when the resource API came out, and I'm like, okay, guys, I know it's really cool, but like, I cannot embed this in all of our production code today. Like, we need to just wait a minute. Don't worry, it's going to be like maybe a year and then we'll get it. So I put a timeline on you there just now, like just a year, y'all. All right. So,
talking about features.
Yeah, so reading back through your blog post, what comes next?
We have some new framework features. For example, when you're dynamically creating a component, now at create component, you can specify bindings, outputs, and even two-way bindings, and add directives to these components easier. So dynamic component creation is now significantly more convenient.
Yeah.
We've been playing also with the templating. Excuse me, with a template expression. Ideally, we would like to have the Angular template expression to be valid like JavaScript. And now it mostly is, but I don't know if folks are aware. Overall, we have our own parser and compiler of the Angular template expression. Even though the delta between JavaScript and the Angular template expressions, like it's not big, we still need to have a custom compiler in a way. So we are reducing this delta further, and we're thinking about how we can make it kind of even more expressive in the future. But that's in version 20 we introduced just like power. So math dot what is it? Is it math.pow?
That is one.
Probably.
Yeah, math.pw.
I'm not gonna lie, I usually look those things up.
Component operator in other way, like with double asterisk. And we added also an in operator.
Nice.
And on tag template literal. So I guess 3 new features in the templating language.
Nice. I want to go back just a second to the dynamic component creation. So is this meant to replace, how does this work with ng component outlet? Is it replacing that? Is it?
Well, this is primarily for instantiation of components.
Okay.
Yeah, so you'll create component and you'll be able to configure it. So, and it is a like imperative way to do that within your TypeScript code.
Nice. Nice. Yeah, because I know that like with dynamic component creation, one of the pieces we've struggled with as a team using ng component outlet and just trying to render things is binding to outputs. There's no way to do that. So,
yeah.
Well, no framework supported way to do that. So,
yeah, now there is a function called output binding that allows you to directly specify the name of the output and also attach a listener.
Nice. Nice. Thank you for that, because that is going to solve a lot of our problems. Excellent.
Yeah.
That's really cool. And all right, so we've got the dynamic component creation API improvements. We've got the new templating stuff coming in.
Yeah, there is more also extended diagnostics. So we have a couple of additional checks. For example, we can see whether you're using invalid nullish coalescing or missing imports for structural directives, or also showing you a warning if you're missing, if you're not calling the track, like, you know, in for how you have a track function
Yes.
that you need to call. If you don't call it, like pretty much all the items in the collection are going to have the same identifier, which is going to be kind of the function to string in a way. So
Yes.
you're not going to have very efficient rendering, and it's a common error. It's like easy to forget to call the function.
Yeah. Yeah,
so,
and if you've ever had like a lot of data on the page and you go to change something that's ng forward over and you see, like when you select something, you see a flicker, that's because you haven't implemented your track by. And it's because it's when it does the node by node comparison, it can't compare node by node. It just says, I don't know what the nodes are, so I'm going to replace the whole thing. And then you get a flicker. So so nice. So that's you said that was a
new feature in the extended diagnostics. So you're going to get an error, and it's in fact a community contribution by Inia.
Nice.
ng-GD. And the other feature that I said about missing structural directives that you haven't imported, it's also a community contribution. So by Kevin Bray. So it has been honestly like a release packed with community contributions.
Yeah, and that's really great. I think that's I think the best way to know what your framework is missing is by asking people who use your framework every day to solve difficult problems. So I love seeing the community contribute stuff, because usually it's something that other teams need as well. I always say, like, any problem you run into, it's probably not unique to yourself. Like, somebody else has probably either struggled with it or solved it. So, so that's great to see.
In this release, we got, I think, about 225, more than 220 and 25 contributions only between version 19 and version 20. So
nice.
This has been great.
I feel like that's an indication of a very healthy community, but that's really good. So when you're looking at community contributions, what types of contributions do you see the community making the most?
Yeah, they're like fixing documentation issues. That's the most common one. That's how I started contributing to Angular like 15 years ago or so. And these are I would say the best way to get started too. You don't even have to clone the repo and run anything. You just edit the file on GitHub and that's it.
Oh yeah, that is nice, because it is a lot to have to clone
the pull down and fork and follow all the rules, and it's rough.
And every now and then you do run into a problem where you're like, these docs are just not quite right. Like, this is not how we should be doing this, or, you know, even just minor typos. It's like you're the unsung heroes of the framework when you're helping to maintain that documentation. So excellent. All right. So is there anything else hiding here in version 20?
Yeah, they'll touch on probably the biggest, one of the biggest things we shipped in version 20, which is the experimental support for v-test. that comes in with obviously the VTest runner with watch mode and browser support, browser testing support. And it's honestly pretty straightforward to use it. All you need to do is install VTest and like JSDOM if you want to use JSDOM. Alternatively, you need to install Playwright for browser testing. And from there, you can just go to angular.json, edit the builder, the test builder. That's how we call them, builders. That we can call it like test extension or whatever, to update to the new one. And that's pretty much it. From there on, well, it very much depends what kind of like you may need to import describe before each. It expects all these kind of tools from the VTest assertion library. But mostly everything should work. If you're using some very Jasmine specific things, it's unlikely to work. You have to migrate them. But we have been exploring an option to use VTest with Jasmine in the long run. So whenever it is still experimental, so not even developer preview, give it a try. But when it starts approaching stable, we're going to invest more in making the transition from Karma easier.
Nice. Yeah, I know that we had Eunice on, and he was talking about like if you're doing like just that function, like those are the sorts of things that you're going to have to update if you're trying to make the transition over to VTest. So if you missed that episode, check it out. We do talk about VTest with Eunice in that episode. So that's exciting.
We dabbled in it a little bit.
We did. We talked about a lot of stuff that wasn't at all related to VTest.
Like the VTest at all. But
like the last 20 minutes, we're like, okay, but I guess we should talk about VTest.
Yeah, the stuff we did talk about was very important though.
It was. So talking about builders, is there anything coming with ES Build or anything like that in version 20?
No, ES Build is in a pretty good state. So feel free to switch to our application builder now. There are some other things like that we ship though. Seems like the list is growing. We have been investing more in the like everyone. We have been looking at the Gen AI space and thinking how to support developers to be productive with Gen AI. And overall, there are two paths for developers. One of them is to just generate scaffold code faster so that they don't have to write everything manually. And the other one is to add Gen AI capabilities to their apps. We we worked on LLMs.txt with kind of different variations of this that aims to let LLMs know what is the latest Angular so that they can generate modern code.
Yes.
And we'll see. I'm not aware of LLMs.txt being an official standard now, and we don't know how much attention LLMs are actually paying to it. But I guess over time, more and more people in the community start implementing using LLMs.txt, is going to end up becoming the way to hint LLMs particular things.
Interesting. Yeah. Like I know our teams, we have been heavily adopting AI practices, and right now we're putting a lot of guardrails in, like, hey, let's always use the inject function. Let's always use this, in like dot instruction type files, and those are helpful. But yeah, I think probably the biggest issue that we've had is getting the code that comes out to fit what we want it, like the best modern best practices. There's a whole lot of Angular code out on the web. So nice.
And on the other side, when you want to introduce Gen AI to your application, we also shipped angular.dev/AI, where you can see how you can get started. Mark and Devin recorded videos on building apps with it.
What was that? Did you get that for I hadn't seen that before. What was
Angular.dev/AI.
Oh, okay.
It's part of version 20. You can also see the live streams there. I think they did 3 live streams. There are instructions how you can use Jenkins. There are some best practices, and it's a good place to get started.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like we're having the drink from the fire hose moment as developers. I think just as a whole community, because there's so many tools. I mean, just what was it, like just a couple of days, Google released Jules. Like, there's all these things that are coming out, and it's like, I don't even know where to start. So it's nice to have this tooling. And I do very specifically remember interviewing Mark, and he was like, AI is the future. And we're like, haha, whatever, Mark.
Mark's always on the right side of history, from what I remember.
Never don't listen to Mark, I guess is the takeaway here. So nice. So I put that link here in the show notes.
We talked about graduators, we talked about cool things. Is there anyone retiring? Is there anything just mapped to be gone? Deprecations or removals?
Yeah.
Retirements are important, right? Yeah.
Reading my mind here. Yeah. So we are deprecating ng-if, ng-for, and ng-switch. No more control flow in Angular. That's it.
Oh, wow.
You know, as far as retirements go, I feel like these are like employees that I'm like, I'm thank you for your service.
Right, yeah.
Work with you. I'm really happy you're retiring. I don't miss you at all.
Yeah.
So what does this mean for people maintaining applications that are just chock full of ng-if, ng-switch, ng-for?
Yeah, the best thing to do is to just run ng-generate at angular/core control dash flow, and this is going to move you to the latest control flow, make your application smaller, faster, the source code looking better.
Yes. And I can confirm, I have run that schematic on some very complicated templates. It really does a kind of fantastic job. My flow is usually we run it, we go back in, we look at it, and usually the only changes we have to make are optimizations, where we're saying, where I was doing a nested if to handle like, if it's loaded, if it's error, if it, all of those different states you could be in, we can use if else instead of nesting if blocks. And that's usually the only change I've had to make. Honestly, it's been pretty flawless every time. So
that's awesome. Yeah, we also made this decision based on the stats we get from HTTP archive. More than half of the Angular version 17 plus applications are using this new control flow.
Yeah. I think that really goes to show, like, first of all, that the community is excited for that change, but also honestly, that schematic is so good. It's just made it so easy because it would be a tedious change to go in and do manually.
Oh yeah.
So
I mean, we we did it manually. We did it manually mostly, but
I did some manual myself.
Yeah.
Like, oh wait, there's a schematic.
We were almost done with it whenever the schematic came out, and it was like, oh, cool, that's neat.
And there's actually, like, I was looking at version 19. There are a ton of like migration schematics that are supported now. So yeah, like you really have to, like, you can do standalone, control flow. I'm trying to think of what some of the other ones are now, because now that I brought that up, my brain has completely blanked. But what I can see is that there's a slot when you open the migrations folder, there's a whole lot listed.
Yeah.
So were there any new migration tools added, lint rules, anything like that?
Yeah, the extended diagnostics, they're kind of lint rules in a way. We have for templates that are very tightly coupled with the compiler. I think the Angular mascot might be the last thing that we have.
Okay, so this is probably the most exciting RFC I've ever heard about. So would you please walk us through what is arguably the most important RFC the Angular community has ever participated in?
Yeah, so I've been doing Angular for a while now, and I've always wanted to have like a plushie or like a keychain with like a mascot that symbolizes Angular. And we haven't really had that. Like the closest thing to this that we have had was the Angular shield. And it's okay, but giving it a little bit of personality would be fun. So this has been my non-technical passion project for a few months. I've been working with the designers that developed the Firebase and the Flutter Dart mascots. And they, based on kind of a lot of research about Angular, and based on a lot of history that we provided to them, and based on a lot of thinking from and a lot of feedback from the team and satellite teams, we came up with 3 different kind of mascots alternatives that we would like to propose as the official Angular mascot. There is a RFC on goo.gle/angular-mascot-RFC. I'm sure you're gonna provide a link in the description of the episode also. And people can just go there, look at the mascots, and tell us which one they like the most. Also, feel free to propose different visual changes. We'll really love to. We really want to make sure that we really like the mascot that is going to be the official Angular mascot, because we're going to be stuck with it for a while.
It's true.
Are you guys gonna send out plushies
we'll
to
have like
people?
limited edition, like this was the first mascot stuffy.
Or that, yeah. I want a plushie at ng-conf or something. That'd be pretty legit.
Well, you know, like Makeshift does some pretty amazing work. Like, so I have this artist I follow named Chris Simpson who makes just absolutely ridiculous stuff, and he every year releases a new stuffy, and I own all of them. So I think this is what we should do. So also, I guess when you're suggesting changes to the mascot, think about how it might look in plushie form. So yeah, the community can go in and make comments, vote on which one they like the best. And then when do you plan to release the results of this very important research?
Yeah, we're going to run the RFC for a while just to be certain that we're going the right direction. It's we went through a lot of iterations already. I'll say I casually kicked off this project last year. We went through a bunch of, I don't know, I'll say over 100 different options. We even had a banana in a box. That was very tempting. But we ended up sticking with a kind of Angular shaped character that reminds me a lot of the Angular logo. And also the team was really fan of the anglerfish, which looks absolutely terrifying.
It totally, like, yeah, I'm like, you know what I think of when I think of the Angular community is just like a whole bunch of anglerfishes with our big scary teeth and our like vacant eyes. But what I will say about the anglerfish, what I do like about this idea is that it has its built-in tooling to help it do its job better.
Look
So
at
it's
that.
actually kind of a great choice.
They need you on the marketing team.
So I have a fine arts degree. I can rationalize anything. Nice. All right. So at some point in the future, we'll learn what our new mascot will be, and then yeah, we'll figure out how we all get our own Angular plushie. The most important part of this, though, is do we get to choose a name for this mascot?
Oh yeah, that's a good point. That's the other question we are asking in the RFC.
Nice.
Give name suggestions. I remember at ng-conf a few years ago.
Yeah, it was like 2 years ago you asked for the name. I remember that.
Yeah, I think the ng might have been the most popular one, which is still on the table. If you like it, go for it. Just comment.
Yeah, yeah. Or throw out your own. Like this is your chance to shine, Angular community. If you've never contributed to the framework before or to an RFC, this is the one you should definitely contribute to.
Yeah, with ng, we also have an official mascot song, I guess, by the Rolling Stones.
Oh my gosh.
It's true. I like it. I like it. All right. Well, we've talked about version 20. We've talked about the world's most exciting RFC. What, aside from maybe taking a nap and like kicking back and relaxing after you've published this blog post, after the team's worked so hard, what is the team looking at for the future?
Yeah, quite a lot actually.
That's shocking.
I'll say the biggest things are selector lists and the new signal forms, together with also the future of Angular animations. How are we going to move on with animations? We have a proposal with new abstractions. I wouldn't call them directives because we can implement them also on compiler level for in and out. These are three of the big like Angular, very specific Angular projects. And of course, there's going to be a lot of thinking about AI. Just want to make sure that Angular is well positioned in this new era of Gen AI.
Yes, definitely. Definitely,
I
yeah.
was expecting to hear you say functional components. So
Oh, we're definitely thinking about revamping of the authoring format. You know, with Angular evolving, there are opportunities to simplify the authoring experience, and selectorless is the most obvious one and the closest to us right now, which is going to remove indirection, make templates more readable, remove the redundant imports, speed up the compiler because we're going to have true locality. From there, reduce the runtime because we're not going to have selector logic anymore. So Angular is going to become smaller, significantly, kind of visibly smaller. And the runtime is going to be faster because we're not going to have any selector matching anymore at runtime. So it's overall like a really good effort. And from there, as Q, as you mentioned, we'll be looking into what else we can do. And function components, I'll say they're on the table, but obviously that's many other things are on the table too. We were even exploring.
I'm like really surprised Brian didn't just appear in the episode right now. Brian has famously asked, when are we getting functional components in Angular since the day I met him. So.
Yeah, we'll see about that. There are other options, a lot of things to consider. So we will be making some progress, I guess, in that space, likely next year. This year, selectorless forms, animations, and AI.
Nice. Yeah, I think the selectorless, I'm doing a talk, the cornerstones of JavaScript frameworks, and it's sort of comparing them, and Angular selectors make us stick out like a sore thumb. So it's definitely like, okay, that makes sense to target that because it is definitely like this sort of like skipping, it's this a piece that makes us different from other frameworks and is getting in our way at this point. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Awesome. Well, I mean, I don't know about you, UQ, but I am definitely looking forward to what's coming in Angular. I'm really looking forward to trying out version 20. I can't wait for my team to get us upgraded. Like, luckily, we should be able to get that done pretty fast. Honestly, the function or the dynamic components API is going to help us out a lot. So I could totally see us going to that pretty fast. Minko, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for joining us today, for taking your time to write the blog posts, to explain what's coming in Angular to all of us, all of that. We always appreciate your contributions and just having you in this community. To the listener, well, first of all, Minko, was there anything else that you wanted to share with us before we go?
I think we covered it all. So I think we're good right now. I just wanted to thank also everyone who contributed to Angular in any way. Like, I know I mentioned the code contributors. That's definitely great, but there are also people who are writing blog posts, just talking about Angular, organizing meetups or podcasts like the one today, conferences. There are just so many wonderful contributions, and just thank you all for doing that.
Yep, absolutely. I double and triple endorse that statement because I think the community is definitely what sets Angular apart from some of the other frameworks and choices that people could make out there. So, so Minko, thank you again for joining us today. To the listener, if you haven't subscribed to the podcast, now would be a great time to do that. That helps us keep putting out content, having guests come on. If you haven't bought your tickets to ng-conf in October, they are on sale now, and it would be a great time to get your ticket. RFC, I believe, is still open as well. So if you have an idea of a talk you would like to propose, definitely get that put in as well. Hopefully we'll see, if not Minko, at least some members of the Angular team at ng-conf. It is sort of like the biggest family reunion of the year for me. So Minko says he'll be there, so I'm excited about that. So yeah, definitely stay in touch with the community, follow us on social media, subscribe to the podcast, and we'll catch you next time.
See ya.
Hey, this is Preston Lamb, one of the NG Champions writers. In our daily battle to crush out code, we run into problems, and sometimes those problems aren't easily solved. ng-conf broadcasts articles and tutorials from NG Champions, like myself, that help make other developers' lives just a little bit easier. To access these articles, visit medium.com/ng-conf.
Thank you for listening to the Angular Plus Show, an ng-conf podcast. We'd like to thank our sponsors, the ng-conf organizers, Joe Eames and Aaron Frost, our producer, Gene Bourne, and our podcast editor and engineer, Patrick Hayes. You can find him at spoonfulofmedia.com.